water,
Try
wine,
whatever.
juice, or
Perrier, something like that.
which
Okay, you're on. You're on.
Wine or water?
Take it away.
Okay,
white or red?
either one. All right, so back to what's after eco-design. A number of projects happened, but this is a big one in terms of City21. This was, well, what's beyond ecological design? Ecological design was a lot about technology and design outlaws. What's beyond it, I would say, is building our cities as places that are more livable and more based on aspiration. And so this film goes into that.
And this is something from City21 now you're going to show?
Well, this is the film right here I'm going to show a clip from.
Oh, you're going to show a clip from the new film?
Yes.
City21 has got a subtitle?
Multiple Perspectives on Urban Futures.
Big question.
And they're the
World's
multiple
moving
perspectives
urban.
right in front of you there.
Is this an ongoing project then?
No, it's huge. It's out.
Urban?
Well, the film is done. The ongoing project now is bringing it to the world.
When
And
we
there's going to be a
start,
companion book as well. For this film, no. But I actually am going to Mexico City in 2 weeks to explore making a film on the future of Mexico City.
Okay.
Based on this research.
Don't get kidnapped.
Very short
Yeah.
road.
Well, the drug cartels are currently redesigning
Well, so you got a negative slant. Stop that. Going to get the long now perspective.
The long now, bring on brand.
Okay, now we're going to go to the introduction, which goes a little bit into
Go circles.
the cosmogenesis perspective that I talked about before,
Okay.
which is very big. And you're going to see a character from the 50s, early 60s, Lauren Isley introduced this.
Yes,
Oh, the
yes,
science
yes.
writer. What a brilliant
Yeah,
guy.
he's a brilliant guy. He comes back to life for this film.
You met him, huh?
Toynbee, you got it in
I
here?
met him on film. Toynbee comes back to life
Yeah.
on this
Oh,
film.
you never met him.
And then I'm going to show you. I'm going to jump to timeless cities and just show a short clip about memory theater.
This will all be one run now?
There'll be two different clips.
Okay, but they'll do one right after another, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so that'll give
Okay,
you a
we're going to
sense
the
of,
big screen now.
yeah.
Welcome to
I'm
IMAX.
talking too much. Okay.
We're ready to go. Okay, hit it. Roll the tape.
We got to get sound going.
All right, here we go, everybody. Okay, calm down, everybody.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
So this will be about a 5-minute clip, and then we'll go somewhere else. This is music by Radio Massacre International. I'm sure you all know. Especially you, man.
If one just casts back in time, for example, into the waste of the night that we can see around us, that region of wandering fires, gas, the enormous desert range of the universe as far as we can reach out, we can see it, we somehow have a feeling that there's something very, very strange, very peculiar about the first emergence of life out of this wilderness, which in many ways seems so indifferent to everything that we believe in. And in a curious way, the whole succession of life on the planet, it seems to me, is a succession of these episodes. It is almost as though every waste, every wilderness, given time, produces some strange emergence. And yet with the coming of man, this emergent creature, out of this final wilderness, there came a new penetration of life into a hitherto unimaginable realm, the realm of mind, the realm in which things could be created, which could not be brought out of the natural universe itself. And yet it is the natural universe, after all, that has created this thing. And this, it seems to me, we must never forget, because this realm of mind offers a certain danger to us in a way if we grow too remote from this world out of which we came, too remote from green leaves, too remote remote from waters, ancestral waters in the sense that we still carry in our living bodies. There is a danger that the mechanical constructions which the mind itself can create, that we may forget that we exist and live by this world out of which we have emerged.
Humans have been building cities since 8000 BC. We now live on a city-dominated planet. What are some of the key initiatives that are shaping the 21st century city? What can we learn from the emerging eco-village movement?
Then that he did one of his most daring acts of history so far. He went down to the swamp in the river bottoms, which were quite impossible, either for hunting or anything else, for a man who had done formidable public works and irrigation and water control for a very elaborate kind, meaning great capital investment before he could get outfit. That's where you get the beginning of civilization. I think if you look at the origins of civilization in what's now Iraq, Babylon, and Mesopotamia, or in Egypt, it's when he goes down into this very forbidding kind of country, jungle, swamp, and masters it, that he then gets enormous returns. A general point here, I think, applies to man's relation to his environment at all stages and all times. He rarely succeeds where he's up against a challenge. He answers this challenge, and in result of answering it, he gets a kind of bonus reward far beyond his expectations, because the return from agriculture, these irrigated river valleys, was, of course, far more abundant than the return from little oases and tiny streams and springs which he'd drawn his water cultivations for. Therefore, he first time got the surplus. I suppose civilization depends on having a surplus over and above the moment-to-moment necessities of life.
All cities seem to have a mythical origin that is often another city. It is often some other foundation that they're recalling or aspiring to. And so many great cities of the past aspire to other places. In many ways, Alexandria, Egypt, was meant to be a kind of a more perfect Athens in some sense. So all cities really harken back to some mythical foundation. It's hard to know where that actually begins. Cities as aspirations have something to aim for beyond contingent reality, beyond the world we live in, the mundane things that we go through in daily lives. They become metaphors for paradise. They become models of the kind of ideal mind that might order the structure of the cosmos. And at that level, they become something that even transcends earthly reality. They're more than just great cities of the past. They can even be models of heaven, as they were for some of us.
King's specialization wasn't exactly an economic one. It was having a leisure class who could be behind all economic development, could plan and think ahead, who were relieved from the immediate necessity of earning their daily bread.
rise and fall of images of the future precedes or accompanies the rise and fall of cultures. As long as society's image is positive and flourishing, the flower of culture is in full bloom. Once the image begins to decay and lose its vitality, however, the culture does not long survive.
We are in a world that we don't understand anymore. We look back to the myth and the metaphor of the Enlightenment. Part of our new myth was, well, we're in exactly the same position. The old rules no longer seem to apply, the new rules have been discovered, what we need is a second Enlightenment.
Now, the Biosphere 2 project, having been able to recycle water, recycle sewage, purify the atmosphere, and so forth, is a direct clue as to how to create sustainable communities. The preface for the idea that Toynbee showed, I think, convincingly, and others, that civilizations have a lifetime, just like people have a lifetime. And that this lifetime, I think, averages something like 750 years. There are civilizations that have been cut off or truncated without achieving their potential. But my understanding is that we're at the tail end of the Renaissance civilization, and sometimes called the synthetic civilization.
In my experience, innovation is usually credited to individuals, but as Brian Eno says, it's really not genius so much as genius. It's a bunch of people who give each other a kind of encouragement and permission to create and be as good as each other and better than each other and all that.
Quindi qualunque mito, che è l'elemento fondante di qualunque civiltà, di qualunque storia, è sempre il punto d'origine, se nutrito diventa qualcosa di vero.
Whatever myth that is at the origin of history, or the origin of a culture, if nourished, becomes reality.
And someone has to have the courage to really draw it, to think about it, to write about it, to dream about it before you can actually build it. I mean, the dream has to predate the realization.
The town planner, if he has the imagination and the skill, can help the citizens of the megalopolis to win their spiritual battle. He can help them in inspiring visible forms with material symbols of these invisible spiritual treasures.
All right, that's the introduction.
Okay, and you have another you're going right into?
A lot of stuff there. Two basic questions that mutate into other issues.
Are you going to go right into another clip now?
Yeah, unless somebody wants to interrupt me.
No, go. The camera's on the screen.
Yeah, I want to interrupt.
Oh, all right. Apparently we're not. We have to turn
Now,
the
was
lights.
that was the biosphere? That was a clip from the biosphere experiment?
Yes.
It's still called the biosphere?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the sections in this film is called Biospheres, from the biosphere into eco-villages.
Okay.
The architect, Phil Hawes, is taking the teachings of the biosphere, applying it to building an eco-village in, of all places,
all the way,
Texas.
I don't know if everybody knows what the biosphere is. I mean,
well,
it's in Nevada.
That's another subject.
Yeah.
But the biosphere is what we're living in now.
Right. The entire.
Okay.
But the
Reed Stowe is a
experimental
biosphere.
That was in Arizona.
Yeah.
He's still on the ocean.
He's still on the ocean. He's broken the record already.
They couldn't support
It
themselves.
was a failure.
Well, I don't know. It's science. So science fails, but it learns. So,
what did you say the answer question? You said
two basic questions that drove this research. What are some of the emerging perspectives and initiatives shaping the 21st century city? What can we learn from the emerging eco-village movement?
Okay.
What we're going to get here is a perspective. I could show the whole thing, or I could jump to the memory theater part. Does anybody have a...
Show the whole thing.
Show the whole thing. Okay.
Did you are you having anything about Arco Sante?
Not in this film, no.
No.
That's another story. That's eco-design. That's an important experiment. This is different. So this is a classical architecture perspective by a guy named Dave Marinek, who wrote a book I recommend to everybody called Timeless Cities. And he is bringing back the mythological, allegorical aspect of city planning that shaped the Renaissance cities. His argument is that our cities have been shaped by engineers and city planners without an understanding of allegorical knowledge. And he's trying to bring that back, and the book goes into that. Very important for anybody interested in.
Important trend?
Emerging trend.
Emerging.
Just out of curiosity, how does cable access programming have to do with
all this?
Where does this tie in?
Well, you read my presentation. It's all about edumentary. Giving people knowledge and education is a way to empower them.
And he was on cable television
Harold
today.
is my friend, and so there's some interconnection. That's for you to figure out.
Take it or leave it.
Of course, it's connected in that we want to try and create an informed citizenry.
Plus, it's beautiful ways of bringing together imagery, which you can do on cable as well.
Right. That's a discussion we can have after this on where the connections are. I'm not in your world, so I don't know fully. But there are linkages. You're very perceptive tonight. What's the clue?
I'll just mention that in the 50s, WBAI, which at that time was not the radical radio station, instead it was the genius radio station, and they'd have Toynbee and Huxley and everybody else.
Right.
So that was you'd have your mind blown every single time that you tuned in to WBAI in the 50s.
Right, in the 50s?
Yeah. After that, they suddenly took over the station, and from then on, you could guess what they were going to say from day to day. So this is an example of stuff that could happen on cable.
Right.
If one were free enough to just
We went from gourmet food to mind candy. We went from gourmet to junk. And there's a lot of that in this culture.
Imagine if NBC turned over a leaf. Oh.
Right. Right. All we can do is
how about any of them? Any of them?
all we can do is create our gardens of beauty and delight. I don't think we can handle the masses tonight. Okay, but we can create our own particular universe and interpretation.
Just one problem. Did you have any copyright problems with stuff you have?
Not yet. No, this was all filmed by me and my team, and
not the
it's all protected as much as possible.
They have to prove them.
What? Do you think Venice is going to sue me for that shot?
Where was the Lauren Isley stuff from?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. That stuff came from. That's a good question, right? That came from the house we live in. That was done in 1961 by Ian McCarr on WCAU in Philadelphia.
I'm disappointed you didn't shoot out of this yourself.
Not that part.
But that's why I was asking. That's what I meant by the copyright.
Not that part. Okay, yeah, that's a good question we can go into later. But his widow thought that she owned that footage, and it turns out she didn't. It was in the public domain. So yeah, I hired a lawyer to look at this.
That's something we should talk about, public domain.
Right, yeah, that's another issue.
We should do a whole evening on that.
We could do a public domain.
Now we're going to go into timeless cities, which is hopefully a unique perspective for everybody here. Maybe not, and you're welcome to critique it.
Okay, you're going to run it. Put it on there, Louis. Turn off the light, please.
The light.
One of the things I think we really lost is the ability to think of our cities as aspirational, as actually aspiring to something more than just documenting who we are and providing a context for us to live our daily lives. Cities as aspirations have something to aim for beyond contingent reality, beyond the world we live in, the mundane things that we go through in daily lives. They become metaphors for paradise. They become models of the kind of ideal mind that might order and structure the cosmos. And at that level, they become something that even transcends earthly reality. They're more than just great cities of the past. They can even be models of heaven, for example, as they were for St. Augustine. Augustine ultimately was not talking about a city that we can actually inhabit in the physical sense. He was talking about a kind of a mirror, a kind of a parallel city that exists simultaneously with the city that we inhabit on Earth. And it was meant to be the ideal city, the city of heaven, the New Jerusalem. The interesting thing about that is that Augustine's talking about this essentially after the city of Rome has been sacked, fallen to barbarians, essentially. So the idea that the real great city that was the kind of focus and the thing that gave idea and structure to the whole Mediterranean culture of the Roman Empire was beginning to just come apart at the seams. It was actually, and it was no longer really a physical center of power. And Augustine rehabilitates the city by pitching it higher, by pitching it up to heaven, essentially, and provides a kind of parallel ideal city that can function as some kind of aspiration beyond the reality of cities that were beginning to come under attack and actually dissolve. And there's been a kind of an apology for some of the angst and the chaos that we generate in contemporary culture as in somehow being reflective of who we really are, as being honest about ourselves. The reality is that was always true in history. We would never have the great cities that we know today because, in fact, most cities were built in times of incredible turmoil. And what the city provided was a kind of a paradise, a kind of an alternative to that turmoil. That cities were built towards aspirations, not towards contingent reality. And in fact, much of the Renaissance actually happens at a time of tremendous upheaval. Cities were always under attack. Plagues were happening. I mean, tremendous personal and societal upheaval is happening at the same time that people are continuing building towards this more perfect vision of how society could really be. At the same time, the Renaissance is a kind of an intellectual idea, predates much of the most famous art and architecture that we associate with places like Florence. So the Florentines are talking about the ideal city, about the idea of a Renaissance, about the recovery of antiquity, before it really even happens. They're talking about it as an idea. In many ways, it's a literary phenomenon before it's a built sort of physical phenomenon. And in that sense, the idea is happening in a way before the reality can ever catch up. They were dreaming of it, they were talking about it, they were writing about it before they ever really started building it. And that courage to dream sounds impractical, sounds like you're not in touch with reality, you're not interested in solving real problems. But our real problems are all rooted in that lack of a dream, lack of an aspiration. Because we're just sort of satisfying shelter, we're just providing a kind of a physical context for our lives, we're not really providing a place that can inspire us, that can pull us out of our contingent reality and provide us an image of something better. So you have to dream first, ultimately, or else you'll never really actually achieve anything close to the dream. One of the things that they share, and one of the things I think we've really lost in the modern world, is some sense that the answers to our problems can actually exist in the past. That people might have gotten it right before us. The idea that there's somehow a city out there that's never been seen before, that is the city that we aspire to that's never been built, is in a way, that's not a constructive dream, because it's one that doesn't root us in our culture and in the good things that people have already done that we can build upon. You know, the idea of standing on the shoulders of giants is a great metaphor for the creative or the inventive process, because in many ways to be really exceptional is to build on what other people have done and take it to another level, in a sense. And what we've lost is the sense that our cities can actually learn something from the great cities in the past, just as we've lost as individuals, as artists, as architects, the sense that we can actually build on what other people have done before us. I think we've also lost that sense as a society. And I think that's been true for cities in the past, that they thought that their goals or their aspirations in part existed in the great cities that predated them. And then they were going to try to emulate those and exceed them. In fact, the origins of this idea of a classical memory technique, the mnemotechnique as she calls it, actually goes back to Greece, but it's really Cicero who codifies it for the Middle Ages, essentially, by writing it down and having it be available, accessible to them. And it goes through transformations. But Cicero essentially distills this idea that you can remember abstract ideas, concepts, speeches, poetry, texts, by associating the ideas or even the words with images. And they believe that our visual memory faculty was our strongest memory faculty. So stronger than the olfactory sense, stronger than any other memory sense, our visual memory was the strongest. And so you could use the stronger sense to aid the weaker one. So you associate ideas with images. And I believe they were thinking things went the other way. That real images, real places, cities, courtyards, sculptures could also therefore embody ideas. And it was a very reciprocal relationship between ideas and images, and they were very intimate ways. But the idea that you can use images to remember a text suggests that you could actually create a space that becomes a text itself, that the world can be read at some level, that you can read a philosophy, that you can read a city as an elaborate text. So that idea also really did function practically for them. They were apparently capable of incredible feats of memory. For Giulio Camillo, who was a rather eccentric character from the 16th century in Italy, he decided that he could actually combine that system and that technique with a specific kind of visual metaphor, the idea of the theater. But not that you are the spectator looking at some sort of performance or some sort of textual idea on the stage, but you're the actor on the stage, and in fact the cavea, the auditoria, is filled with ideas, is actually filled with drawers that represent or actually contain text, and that you as the actor on the stage can call forth those ideas from the drawers in the seating area, in the auditorium of this theater, and have it accessible to essentially the sum of all human knowledge. It's all there, all reachable for you physically. You can actually reach out and get it. But the idea ultimately is that you're supposed to carry around that memory theater in your head, that you can actually build this memory theater for yourself in your mind, and all those ideas and all those texts are available to you intellectually, and you carry them with you at some level. But what it did is it also enriched the idea of what the theater could actually be. The theater could become this great summation of all our experience, all of our knowledge, and all our memory. And the theater is more than, therefore, just a place of entertainment. It's a place of intellectual curiosity and satisfaction, a place that you go to be enriched, to be inspired, to be elevated at some level by the experience. This metaphor of the theater as a kind of a summation of all our experience is a very common topos or theme, this idea that there was something called the Teatro Mundi, the theater of the world. So the world was a theater at some level. The world's, like Shakespeare says, a place where we play out our lives. But at the same time, the theater is a miniature world. So the fact that the Globe Theater is called the Globe does suggest that it's a world in miniature. And it has the heavens painted over the stage to suggest that it's actually the cosmos, not just the globe of the world, of the earth, but the globe of the universe, the spheres that they understood to be the structure of the universe. I do think that at some level, Camilo tapped into something about how we actually understand things. We do understand ideas in terms of association. How we make connections between things is how we understand things. It's also ultimately how we're inventive or creative. We come up with new ideas by understanding connections to disparate ideas. Things that we actually put together is, in a way, sort of the essence of the inventive process. But thinking that the world could therefore be memorable means that you have to give it structure, that the world can't be a chaotic place, it's not a memorable place. So the memorable place is a place like a theater. One of the reasons that the theater could be thought of as a kind of a world in miniature is that it's kind of a coherent world. It's a world that's more perfect than the real world. It has less of the idiosyncrasies and the chaos of the real world, but at the same time, it condenses and distills the world into something essential and something fundamental that we can remember and take away. And so that the ideal that the world could also be that organized and coherent and therefore memorable is a natural extension of the idea of the theater. And it does say something, I think, fundamental about how we actually think and understand things. And so it's not just a kind of an arcane idea from the past. I think it gets to the root of how we actually perceive and understand things.
Okay, that was a real...
That was good, yeah, that was really good. We're going to go straight to another clip, so we'll keep the lights on.
That's Dave Merrimack, Merrimack, Timeless Cities, which I recommend highly. You got a sense of it there. Memory theater as a way of designing, so perhaps connected to what you're doing with cable television. You're enhancing the memory theater of Americans.
Do you ever get into the idea of cities as living entities? Because in that sense, cable access is the eyes to the world. But cities are these beings. They have, oxygen. They have food supplies. They have, waste products being removed. There's a whole model of the human organism is modeled in the urban environment.
Yes.
And public access is the creative outreach, the frontal lobes of living cities, because they're bringing in new ideas. They're exploring new unknowns. But do you get into the idea of cities as living beings?
Tangentially, not as a theme.
Okay.
It's underlying what we're doing here and what the film covers.
Yeah. Gaia. You get into Gaia.
Gaia. Yeah, Gaia up here.
Yeah. Well, we're back to another film then.
No, we're going to go to another clip. We could talk more about David Marinek and what he's talking about. But he was talking about the Renaissance idea of a memory theater, that you had access to all the knowledge of humanity, and that you could be an actor on the stage and open up all the drawers and all those ideas would be there. That was an ideal that he was presenting to the kings of Europe at the time of the Renaissance, 14th, 15th century, and he didn't get any finance. But now, here we are in 2009, and what is our memory theater now? What do we all have access to? The internet.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's here for us. It's not a theater, it's a private theater, so there's some discussion there. In our private theaters, we have access to knowledge that we can go out in public and do, but the ideal has happened 500 years later.
Yeah, I think we have to change the idea of theater. Theater was a kind of Renaissance term, and we're updating it to a much vaster environment than theater, just as far as terminology.
Yeah.
Because the computer encompasses the kind of collective unconscious.
Well, theater is an ancient term.
Yeah.
Right, theater has to do with the see, though, in the Greek play. It really has to do with seeing. So that's back to what humans are visual animals. So
yeah.
Yes,
seeing
but theater is not born of Greek origin.
Say again?
Theater is not only Greek origin.
In the Western world, it's not?
Well, the Western world.
How much Babylonian theater have you?
Anyway, that's another discussion. We can get into this.
Those Sumerians put on a great back.
And those Cro-Magnon were pretty good at it.
It was the medium of its
I
time.
remember
it's
dancing
kind
in
of
Indian theater.
Yeah.
But this is the theater set we have right here with this discussion going back and forth. And Maggie, you're playing a big role with your questions.
Bring in the popcorn.
Well, they have ritual. They have ritual.
Oh, come on, thanks a lot.
Ritual and religion, or spiritual ritual, is also a source of theater.
It is theater.
Processions.
Yes.
This is how they show the people.
Well, and New York is a center of theater. That's part of what makes this such a vibrant city. And
what made it a vibrant?
all right, well, this
It ain't a vibrant city.
Does it have aspirations still?
New York is.
There's a vibrant discussion. You've got a lot of negativity tonight. We're going to have to manage that.
No, it's not me.
All right.
You get a great.
Okay, you're going to show another
All right,
clip?
we're going to move right along here,
Who is this
and we'll
one?
get
What
some
is
discussion. So now we're going to move into the third theme I was talking about, cosmogenesis and creativity. And this is Paolo Lugari, who invented this village called Gaviotas in Colombia. That is totally post-petroleum. And here's his theory of creativity.
Totally post-petroleum. And this is, what do you call it?
Gaviotas.
No, this is
Cosmogenesis.
Cosmogenesis. What do you mean by that again?
I told you before.
Say it once quick.
I know. We're going to set something here. Okay, let's move along.
Let's move along.
Okay.
That's the computer.
Rotate.
Rotate.
Sound. Action.
Sound.
Which later on permits us
formar un cosmos.
y
cuando el cosmos no es apropiado para las circunstancias,
and when the cosmos is not appropriated for a specific circumstance,
volvemos al caos
we turn to the chaos
para después armar un rompecabezas, un cosmos diferente.
so that then we build with a puzzle in a different cosmos.
Porque creemos en el pensamiento de Heráclito de Éfeso.
Because we believe in the saying of Heraclitus.
Can
que dice que
Turn
el
it
único
up. Yeah,
permanente
turn sound up.
You go up higher?
Ken, that's stop. Everybody
Permanente.
quiet.
Y esto nos permite decir
And this enables us to say
que la madurez consiste en realizar los sueños.
that the maturity consists in realizing one's dreams.
Y el que no sueña es porque está dormido.
And if someone doesn't dream, it's because they're asleep.
Luego en gaviota siempre estamos soñando
And gaviotas, we're always dreaming
y realizando.
and realizing.
That's
Everybody dance.
You got good music on this thing.
Yeah, right. Sorry about the sound. I have to go into the system for it and bring that up. That's a little bit out of context without more introduction about gaviotas.
Yeah.
But anyway, they've created a village in the middle of the tropics of Colombia that is totally post-petroleum, and they've invented 5 different technologies based on a forest ecology, and they've invented their own solar hot water system. But his theory of creativity I like, because you're working with the chaos to create form. And he goes back into the Greek ideal of Socratic conversation, and that creativity is maturity. So creating your own dreams is a sense of maturity, and they've actually done it. So it's not just a philosophy that is on paper.
It's in the soul of Colombia? It's in the
Yeah, there's a book by Chelsea Green published called A Village to Reinvent the World.
Chelsea Green's a great house, everyone. Published.
So, just back on before I stop this presentation, back to the theme of creativity, which I think is very important.
A lot of it
hopefully is connected to what everybody's doing, because creativity is the gift and we can all get better. This is a class that was invented by Robert Fritz. Anybody heard of Robert Fritz?
Yeah, the path of least resistance.
He wrote a book, yes. And also there's a class called Technologies for Creating that gets into the creative philosophy. And it's a 5-week self-study class that had a big influence on me back in 1982. And I'm still
learning.
I'm still using it. And here's a little clip where he's talking about, which is structural tension. And this is the last concept I'm going to parfait tonight, which is the tension between the vision and the current reality, which is in your life right now, your vision of what's next for you and the current reality of what's going on.
That's
now.
really important.
Yeah, because that's how nature works. Tension seeks resolution. So if our computer...
Is that a Bucky Fuller term?
Yeah, well, it would be
10
10
seconds.
seconds. 10 seconds.
Structural tension is different. It comes from music. Yeah, he was a student of that great German composer Konrad Stockhausen, who had a big influence on the Beatles. You know about him, right?
I just wanted to say,
oh, thank you.
I was buying books for the City Planning Institute at City College for years and years.
Really?
I went through all these books.
Oh, boy.
And so on. And, you know, in public access, when we work with these people, we should bring over the academics that have been
Absolutely.
current academics that are working on city planning and modeling cities.
Talk about
I
city
mean, there's an
planning.
institute, wonderful institute at City College.
I think that's what makes
And
cable
yet
access
at the same
different.
time, we have this dichotomy of the destruction of cities, where our government is spending billions of dollars to destroy the ancient cities.
Watch
We should keep that in mind too. So that, yes, WBAI has
It's still running.
but the world has changed.
No.
And we would like to have
There we
Royal
go.
Navy back on the air. And
Is it okay? Are you okay there?
Yeah,
Quiet down?
thank you.
Okay, well,
You can leave it on
on
for a while.
moment?
Yeah.
Hey,
No, but I
The
think
world
they
of
don't have to be
imperialists.
brave.
let me hang this up.
They have to stand up against the institutional conduct.
Wait, let me.
Yeah, against it or?
Like the bus stop.
Good idea. idea to bring the academics over to access. Access is where it's at.
I thought you were doing that already.
Well, we're trying.
Do you have everything on?
Yeah, I do think.
Are you going to roll?
I just want to mention something about city planning. What they're doing instead of city planning is they're trying to
Yeah, I do.
retrofit
I got it on here.
certain concepts, new concepts into an old city planning paradigm.
You still rolling tape?
For instance,
You're good? You're good?
for instance, the west side of Manhattan, they're putting bicycle lanes into creating islands and things like that. But what they're doing is they're retrofitting it. It wasn't meant to be that way, so they're narrowing the traffic. And I don't know what the theory of that is going to be.
Well, they say that he said to...
Okay, everybody, calm down.
This is the last clip.
This is the last clip. Come and say the last clip. All right, class, calm down.
Everybody? Yeah, please.
No talking in the back, no chewing gum.
This is the fourth concept I want you to leave with tonight.
Fourth concept for tonight.
Okay, remember, the concept is the fourth.
All right, guys.
Oh, joy.
Tension seeks release.
Yes.
Why, thank you for answering my question.
Tension seeks.
I now pronounce you man and
Man and foosball. Nerf ball.
Yeah. Oh, what am I doing here?
Learning.
wife.
Okay, that's the last clip of the night.
That's the last clip of the night. Light! Put on the light over there. We're going to do a light now. Thank you. That was really good. Did you put all that together, Chris? That last one?
No, that's Robert Fritz's class.
Oh.
So that's my summary of my presentation. Heuristics,
Now, what's the
hermeneutics, cosmogenesis. These all help create tensions, and hopefully creative tensions, and they all seek a resolution of some kind.
What about Fuller talking about tension?
Beautiful work, by the way.
And segment? Yeah, very good. Very good. What about Fuller with this tension, compression, tensegrity? I mean, how does it relate to this tension when you're talking Fuller's view of the universe?
Fuller's talking more about architectural form.
No, he's talking about male and female functions in the universe. Or
Well, in my
opposites.
understanding,
Okay.
he's talking about architectural form.
Oh, okay.
Structural tension is more having to do with internal process of the mind.
Unfortunately, his dad, he can't tell us what he means. He can't interpret it.
Yeah, Bucky's not here to interpret.
That's
it.
true. Yeah, you got him on tape.
But he was more interested in physical form tensions. This material here, Robert Fritz, which I recommend, is more about internal process, or learning how to be better creators, which is my underlying theme. That's my computer operating there.
Yeah.
And I think you all are in your own way, of course. Being in cable TV, you have freedoms that other people don't have. We can have other discussions on how to get better at it and how to bring more ideas. I think bringing academics on television or on your shows is very important. That's connected to what independent filmmakers do. You saw David Marinek, which probably no one's heard of before, right? He's an academic at Notre Dame. From Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I don't know if they have to be academic.
And nobody knows about him, but he's doing important work and bringing the Renaissance back to life, which I think is an underlying theme. Let's learn from the Renaissance. Yes.
People watch Charlie Rose and they think they're answering these questions.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with Charlie Rose, but he's better than most people.
No, I'm saying he's just...
He's better than Fox Television.
He's better than most.
But how much better is that?
Well,
not too much better. Basically, he's there to gloss the ass of the ruling class. Unfortunately, okay? You're not getting much out of Charlie Rose, really. He looks good. You know, it feels he's going in the right direction. Too bad he couldn't walk a few more miles in that direction.
When he's on public television, they want someone middle of the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's their function.
But he doesn't come up with anything.
No.
He never comes up with. He's like Condoleezza
He's better than Larry
Rice.
King. He's better than Larry King.
Not too much better.
I know. We can have that argument. I like Harold better than both of them.
Well, I know.
I like Harold too.
I like Jackson. Put Jackson on television.
But Harold's got to know when to stop asking the question.
Yes, that's right. Shut up. Shut up.
You should put
Yes,
Jackson
sir.
on television.
Yes, we should. Indeed. We should put a canary on television. That canary.
Was that a canary?
I think it was.
Question.
Sorry.
That question.
You had an impressive array of what future cities, this idea, tension, release, aspiration. We're not just creating a shelter for ourselves, we're creating a future. Now, there was mentioning of Arcosanti, there was mentioning of Stockhausen. Stockhausen had a mentor for decades, his name was Sridhar Aurobindo. On whose paradigm was founded a city in South India called Oroville.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the name of that city?
Oroville.
Do you have anything on Oroville?
Oroville, we wanted to go there, but we ran out of time and budget. But yeah, Oroville, certainly in the eco-village search, we went to Finhorn.
It was Finhorn and Arcosanti and Oroville at one time, they were
Right.
like sister, they were like an SSI.
Right. Oroville, I think, is very important. It's in India, it's pretty far away, but yeah, I didn't know that he was a teacher of Stockhausen. But yeah, that could be a film in itself, and maybe I'll go there next.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, that's important. Of course, it's India, and it's a whole other worldview.
Yeah.
They're important. Their architecture is they built with a spiral. And
It was the cosmology.
Have you been there?
It was the cosmic spiral was the blueprint for that city. The spiral of stars.
have you been there?
Have you been there, Paula, Alan? You been to Oroville?
Where is that?
Can you talk to it at all?
India.
Put it on them, can you? Please, Doctor. How about Oroville? Or Aurobindo? He's a big
Aurobindo.
That wasn't
Or
the
maybe you
mother's,
don't.
that was the mother's place.
It was the mother's place.
My friend was there too.
Why does this keep coming out?
I'm on this tomorrow.
Does that have something to teach Americans? I guess.
No, talk. Try and talk up. The mic's here. Quiet.
I think what was most interesting was Jaipur was set up according to astrology, very specific. The court astrology was in Delhi at that time. So that's all of the influence of the Mughals coming down from the north. But my theory, I'd like to explore more the south, because the south of India has an alphabet that's not even Sanskrit. And I think the real power and the real juice from India comes from the black south, blue black.
Dravidian?
Dravidian. I'm convinced of that. There are temple sites where an elephant's in a temple and it looks perfectly reasonable. That's how big it is. Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is like recent history and coming from the north. So all this stuff about the Aryans coming down from the north, I don't think that's so at all.
You don't.
So you're talking about pre-Mogul.
And that's one of the most
Yeah.
controversial things to bring up. We talked to all the Indians, top to bottom, because I was there 4 years on the trains talking to people. And as soon as you suggest that the real culture comes from the South,
Yeah.
everybody, even in the South, they don't have a slot for it.
Racism, is it?
I think it's racism.
No.
It's trendy.
Not the first time.
You know, they're into their Mughal dynasties.
Yeah.
And that's what's impressive to the
Yeah,
world.
but the Mughals,
So they brainwashed themselves out of looking any further, maybe. Or the Ayurvedic stuff is too controversial in a sense in the modern world.
But see, Ayurveda in the South is different than Ayurveda in the North.
DC is supposed to be built along Masonic lines.
Yes.
Washington D.C. is laid out according to, supposedly according to Masonic philosophy.
Right. That's another subject of city design, yes.
It is. Paula, I believe there is a Tibetan influence in South India, which is a fact that I'm aware of. The Tibetan indigenous peoples that have migrated there, as well as the native, or so to speak, native Indian influence very big. Tibetan, yeah.
Blavatsky and all the after they were run out of the north, somehow somebody leaked that some famous person from aristocracy was doing seances, and they were run out of the north. So Alcott actually wrote up the bylaws for Buddhism, but the Buddhism from Sri Lanka is different than
Yes, yes it is.
But if it wasn't for Alcott and the Philosophical Society, the Christian missionaries almost, they were like a hairbreadth from squelching that whole thing. And he was a whistleblower for the military during the Civil War. Started here in New York in 1974.
Alcott
I
was
think
the first name?
1972. Colonel Alcott.
Colonel Alcott.
He started it. He was the first president. We're actually
All right.
buried in India.
Now we're going off into a whole other tangent, but okay.
Like Peter.
I've got to be positive now. I don't want any conspiracy theory.
Oh man.
There goes 90%
It ain't
of the
no
vocabulary.
conspiracy is a fact. There's no theories. I want to mention something about sacred cities.
Sacred cities.
Okay, the idea of sacred cities being really utopic spiritual places for that particular belief system. Olympus, Shambhala, Shangri-La, and the Who, in one of their first records, sang about Armenia, city in the sky, or city in the sun. Oh, it's a fantastic song, Armenia, and it's on the Who Sell Out. It came out in '65, I think.
Can you send me an email on that? Because I'm working on it.
It's a very unusual. You have to hear that.
That list you just gave right now.
And then Heliopolis. Heliopolis in Egypt. Beg your pardon? Many a time.
What are you working on now?
Yeah, where do you go now, Fred?
Only with the right woman.
About ideal cities?
City21.
Have you looked at Karnak and Kuala Danubit's Temple of Man?
Or the more clip.
That's it's built on the human physiology. Kuala Danubit.
They were the ones where Gurdjieff said he had the pre-sand maps of Egypt. And the pre-sand was kind of what was the inspiration for research in 1990, showing that the water erosion on the Sphinx meant that we had to push back our sense of history by many thousands of years. And so you have geology pitted against Egyptology.
So the Sahara did move east till like 10,000 years ago. It was tropical in Egypt.
Yeah.
It wasn't desert like it is now. And it's only recent that that changed. But sometime around the building of the Sphinx, because there was water erosion. And it couldn't happen when it was desert. So anyway, there was an ideal city on the Gaza Plateau.
Right.
keys of that plaza.
Right.
How long did it take you to make that first one? Was it City21?
Well, this is, this
First one was ecological
design. I've made others before, they're smaller. They're both research projects over 5 years.
Jared, where are
It
you?
looks like
Where
a lot
are
of
you?
work went into it.
Yes.
It's like light, now you see it, but a lot of work went into it.
Yes.
Well, it seems that the formal session is about coming to an end. We want to all thank Chris very much for coming and presenting it. Chris is often in New York, and he ought to give you cards and stuff and ways to contact him and that.
Where are you located mostly?
I live out in Bucks County.
Where?
That's 70 miles.
Pennsylvania.
Town called Durham. That's a small farm.
But he has
revolutionary farmhouse.
He has an ecological contact with the National Art Club here.
Yeah, that's one
and
of
he
my
has an
business.
office here in New York on Park Avenue South. You want to let people know and contact
That's
him?
more of a mailbox, actually.
Are you an architect?
Well, filmmaker, green design. I see film and architecture connected. I like film more because you have more freedom.
That film, Ecological Design, is the
But
best.
I think architecturally about film. How's that?
That's the best presentation that is popular of Buckminster Fuller. who
Harold
was the
loves
giant.
Buckminster.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, sir, over there.
Where's the next project?
Where's the next project?
What's your next
Oh, I told you I'm going to Mexico City on the 24th. So I may apply this kind of thinking to a place that is suffering from quotidian pain.
Are you going as a filmmaker?
They have a drug war going on.
You going as
Oh,
a drug maker?
I'm going to
As
look.
a filmmaker? Or?
Yeah, I'm
You're
there's
trying to
a
get
green
inside.
architect who I met at a Beyond Oil conference.
What is a green architect?
Oh, okay, that's a good question.
the,
The green architect paints his face green and then tells you what to do. No. Green architect is someone who studied landscape architecture and
He is
ecology
art.
and can build a building that gives back more than it takes. That's the new ideal, which you should know about.
Real quick.
Or a society.
Hydrogen cars. What do you think about that?
Say again?
Hydrogen cars.
It's an ideal. I like anything that's post-petroleum. It's controversial.
Yeah, it's a lot of news.
Right. Oh, some people say it'll never happen, but they said that about petroleum cars.
About everything
They
else.
said that about Macintosh.
Do you think it's a good thing?
And the airplane.
Anything that is domestic-based energy and is renewable, in my mind, is a good thing, and not coming from the Middle East. So I have faith in the inventive spirit of humanity. Once again, because it feels better to live that way.
Ain't true.
Okay? There's a lot of negativity out there, yes.
When are these going to be free? I'm fortunate that I happen to come to see them.
Yes, thank you.
My friends
The film City21? It's a good question. It's just been released and looking for distribution. So if you know anybody in television and film distribution, that's where it's looking to find a place. I do have a distributor in Canada, but that's not America. Chelsea Green probably.
What's the title of that one again?
The new one is called City21 Multiple Perspectives on Urban Futures. You can go to my website, city21.info, right now. But when it will be on conventional TV is always a good question. We'll see.
City21.info.
Yes.
That's his site.
And I'll leave some cards out.
What is it again?
City21.
City21.info.
I want you to send me an email with those mythological cities you just
No, I'll
enunciated.
send you a bunch of stuff.
And I would hear to say...
You have no idea what I'm
No conspiracy.
I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your mind.
Chrisyopher Zelov here.
There's a car. He's got
I'm going to
cards
send
here
you
if you
stuff
want to,
that's going to blow. I'm going to send you your next project.
Ecological design is out in the broader world. You don't have it at...
Here it is on DVD. Harold. I can give you a copy.
You ran out of cards? I'm going to send you the next project.
What's your name?
The tape is
Give me your card. Give me your card.
the tape is running out at just the appropriate time.
We just pulled it in, pal. Another great project. Yeah. I've just pulled out the tape we shot. I think you shot it when we went over and did a program with Marilyn Mocko Savant and the office of Ali Trakey.
I remember her from Center Media Arts.
It's up on, yeah, we did it. It was, what's his name? Who's a friend of Schweinger's? Matthew Schwenger.
Not Jenks.
No, not Jenks. I love Jenks. I've been doing a lot of them. I got those ones from the Center for Media Arts that I'm putting up on YouTube. There's a bunch out.
Oh, good.
With the graphics and the credits for you. And
I'll check them out.
who's the guy? The Edelman? No, who was the... Yeah, Jenks and others. But I was thinking of... I can't think now. I just remember fondly that. And they work. And putting them up when you get dozens and hundreds of views.
Yeah, you were telling on one of your shows I was watching, you said you had millions of hit on one show.
No, on one show.
What was that
one show I did, it was with a guy, I've had over 2 million, almost 300,000 views. And it's amazing. I can show it to you.
What do you think it is?
Well, no, it was just talk, but it was a guy talking about Iran. And he was talking about Iran and Mossadegh and that, but it was just talk. No naked women, no graphics, no nothing. Just an hour of talk.
Well, can you show it to me, or should I go there on
Well, I'll
YouTube?
show you. Not only that, I'll show you something now if you want to. Or you're going to hang for a little while?
I'll hang for a little while.
We'll go back there and I'm going to say hello to you.
Okay.
Yes.
How do I check this out?